82 évesen is a világot járja a brit Jane Goodall, az emberhez közeli csimpánzok szakértője, aki sok mindent megfigyelt az állatokról, amit a tudósok nem. Világhírű állatvédő és környezettudós, aki szerint mindenki tehet a föld jövőjéért. Évtizedeket töltött Afrikában, utóbb intézetet alapított, világszerte, így Magyarországon is vannak követői. Megkérdezzük tőle, mi hajtja őt ma is. Jó estét mindenkinek, ez az utolsó adásunk a nyári szünet előtt. Ma este egy hibánkat hozzuk helyre. 3 hete interjút sugároztunk az emberhez legközelebb álló csimpánzok világhírű kutatójával, Jane Goodall-al. A beszélgetést akkor nehezen követhető szinkron tolmácsolással láthatták, ez hiba volt. Most magyar feliratokkal mutatjuk a Budapesten készült angol nyelvű interjút. Jane Goodall életének jó részét Tanzániában töltötte, csimpánzokkal barátkozott össze. Annyit tudott róluk, hogy később alapdiploma nélkül szerezhetett tudományos fokozatot a Cambridge-i Egyetemen. Majd intézetet alapított, amelynek vagy 130 országban működnek szervezetei. Jane Goodall 82 évesen is állandóan a világot járja. Azt mondja, a Föld megóvásának feltétele az állatok és a természet védelme íme. Dr. Goodall, it's an honor to welcome you on this program. First, I thought I can't believe that you're staying in an apartment in Budapest as opposed to a 5-star hotel where what you deserve. But you probably say you don't belong there, do you?
I do not belong there and I don't like them.
And you like this environment?
This is much, much nicer.
What
I'm
brings
happier in a tent.
Are you still tenting?
But occasionally,
Where?
when I go to our program in Congo, Congo, Brazzaville, sometimes in a tent there.
Is it safe for you there?
Yes, so far.
It's a very volatile place.
Yes.
And what brings you to Budapest?
Well, there are Jane Goodall institutes around the world which have the mission of trying to make the world a better place. The main program is for young people, Roots and Shoots, but we're also raising awareness and, when possible, raising money to help our programs in Africa. So there's a JGI Hungary.
Do you have a lot of small donors or big donors or both?
We have many small donors. I'm not very familiar with the donor situation in Hungary because I've only just arrived.
No, I mean globally.
Oh, globally. We have a few major ones. We have US government support, USAID. We have some from the European Union. And then 1 or 2 corporations, if their ethics are right, and donors, smaller donors, members, and those who become chimpanzee guardians by paying money and getting a picture of the orphan chimp they've adopted.
I looked at the map of your institutions and found out that you don't have any in North Africa, in the whole Arab region.
Well, we have our Roots and Shoots program very strong in Abu Dhabi.
In Abu Dhabi.
And that's the sort of base from where we hope to move out.
And what about Russia and India?
No, India we have Roots and Shoots groups, and there's a plan to go to India. But Russia, I've been to Moscow once, and there hasn't, you know, I don't plan, okay, I'm going to put JGIs here and here and here. It's, I go to a country and you find a sponsor or somebody who's prepared to take up the reins, because I don't run all the different institutes. They're run within the countries.
Do you have a favorite place in the US? One favorite place?
In Europe? Well,
anywhere in the globe?
Anywhere in the globe. Well, I love Tanzania because...
Still?
Yes, I still love... I go back there twice a year. My son and part of his family is there. I also love the UK because my sister lives in the house we grew up in, which we both own, so that's really my roots. That's where I go in between these almost constant tours.
And where do you live if you have a home? Do you have a home?
That's it.
That's in Britain?
My sister and I share the house, and she actually lives in it, and I am a bird of passage.
Come and go.
I come and go. She keeps the home fires burning, and there are dogs, and it's home. I mean, it's all my childhood is there.
How many days a year do you travel?
300-ish, more this year.
300-ish? Ooh.
It's crazy. I don't think I like it. It's horrible.
Don't like it?
No, I do not.
Well, why do you do this?
Because I have a message to share, And I find that more and more people are losing hope about the future because of the mess we've made of the world. And if everybody loses hope, particularly the young people, we may as well give up.
So your inner drive defeats the feeling that you don't like to travel.
That's right.
What's the drive, really?
The drive is I care about the future of the planet, my grandchildren and theirs, and all the other children that I meet as I travel around the world. I care about the future of the chimpanzees and the rainforests and the birds and the whole of nature.
Let me jump back about 56 years. 1960, you arrived to Goma, which is today Tanzania. You have a pair of binoculars and a notebook.
Yes.
And a job suddenly.
And is it a job? I don't think it's a job. It was a dream of mine as a child, which Louis Leakey enabled me to realize, but I've never thought of it as a job. I mean, I've never been paid for it, ever.
But what is exactly attracted you to Africa? Was it the people, the continent, the sun, the animals, all the above?
It began when I was a very small child. I always loved animals, and I'm not sure in Hungary if Dr. Dolittle books are known,
Sure.
but yes, well, I love Dr. Dolittle, and there's one book where he takes all the circus animals back to Africa. That was kind of the first. But then when I was 10, I had saved up enough pocket money to get this little second-hand book, because we had very, very little money. World War II was raging. And that little book was called Tarzan of the Apes. And of course I fell passionately in love with Tarzan, like little girls of 10 do. And he went and married the wrong Jane, so I was terribly jealous.
And that drove you to Africa?
That's when my dream began. I will grow up, go to Africa, live with animals, wild animals, and write books about them.
Now, what made you fall in love with your chimpanzee?
I didn't really. I mean, it was Louis Leakey. Somebody said, when I saved up money and got to Kenya, somebody said, you should meet Louis Leakey if you care about animals. So I met him, and that led to him offering me a job as his sort of secretary assistant, because all I'd done at that time was a secretarial course. And that led to him offering me this amazing opportunity to study not just any animal, but the one most like us. And I would have studied any animal. Chimpanzees were very exotic. Nobody had studied them in the wild. Nobody knew anything about them.
And you were, I believe, the first to find out that they are using tools?
I was the first to find out just about everything.
Such as?
Well, their social structure, the maternal behavior, the fact that there's always one dominant male, the fact that the males of a community patrol the boundaries of their territory and may even engage in a kind of very primitive warfare in which individuals may be killed. The first to see, well, every detail of how they lived, how they make nests at night, up in the trees, how they use tools, how they eat insects and occasionally hunt for meat, and everything.
Are they close to people?
They kiss, embrace, hold hands, pat one another on the back, hold out hands begging for food or reassurance, all in the same context that we do. They laugh, they have vivid personalities, they have emotions like happiness, sadness, fear, despair, and their minds are much more sophisticated than anybody used to think. So yes, they are, when you look at the biology, the DNA of chimps and humans differs by only just over 1%, so 98.6% the same.
What's the next closest animal?
The next
In
closest
DNA
animal, well,
structure.
almost equally close, is the little bonobo. It used to be called the pygmy chimp. And then comes the gorilla and the orangutan, the 3-4 great apes.
So if I understand you, they do almost everything what people do, except for talking, except for language?
That's right. They haven't got the sort of spoken language we have. And I think that is what's led to the explosive development of our intellect. I mean, chimpanzees can learn up to 600 or more signs of American Sign Language, use them in the appropriate context, they can work out quite complex problems with a computer, with a touchpad, and, you know, but nevertheless it can't be compared with what we can do. So, and isn't it weird that the most intellectual being ever to walk the planet is destroying its only home?
Meaning mankind, the planet.
Yeah.
When you, we'll come back to this in a minute, but then you eventually went to Cambridge,
Yes.
University of Cambridge, and several professors told you you were wrong.
Yeah, I'd done
In
everything
many
wrong.
ways.
Yeah, I'd done everything wrong. And what's more, it wasn't a nice feeling for me to go because I didn't have a prior degree. And Lewis told me I had to get a PhD. And I felt that some students resented me, you know, who does she think she is? And on top of that, some of these professors, I was a bit scared of them. I mean, you know, I didn't know anything about science at all. And to be told that I'd done everything wrong, that the chimpanzees shouldn't have had names, they should have had numbers, that was science. And I couldn't talk about their personalities, their minds, or their emotions because those were unique to us. But fortunately, as a child, I'd had a wonderful teacher. And that teacher taught me the professors were wrong. That teacher was my dog, Rusty. You can't share your life meaningfully with a dog or a cat, a horse, a cow, I don't care what, and not know that of course animals have personalities, minds and feelings.
So did any of these professors ever told you, we are sorry, we were wrong and you were right?
Not in so many words, but obviously they changed their minds and I got my PhD. In fact, my main supervisor came to Gombe and afterwards he said he learned more in 2 weeks than all his previous life.
Well, that was some satisfaction for
Yeah.
you. You felt happy or relieved or
No, it was great.
satisfied?
It was great.
When you started to be interested in Africa, I think the whole continent had about a little over 200 million people, and possibly within that range chimpanzees.
Yeah, between 1 and 2 million.
Right. Today, Africa has 1.2 billion people, supposedly will double it by 2150, by 2150, and there are hardly any chimpanzees left.
Yes, it's maximum 300,000, spread over 21 countries.
But
Many
this is-
in small isolated groups that haven't a hope of surviving.
When were you more optimistic about the chimpanzees, at that time or now?
Well, in that time, there was no worry. I mean, there was an equatorial forest belt. It stretched from East Africa right across to the west coast. And there was, you know, the big logging companies hadn't moved in. It's us that have done this to Africa, destroyed their own culture, their way of life, so that many more children were born and born into increasing poverty because people go in and take Africa's natural resources, just as they do in Asia and Latin America.
And some people think, even economists and politicians, that Africa is in some way a forgotten continent.
Well, I think it's coming into greater prominence now,
Because?
just because I see more people talking about it.
Allow me a jump. There is this refugee versus migrant crisis in Europe today. Europe is complaining about unable to house, say, 1 or 2 million refugees and migrants, whereas there are many, many African countries and other countries that house many, many more.
Yeah.
But a lot of people think that many millions of Africans one day will have to start walking towards Europe. Do you think this will happen?
Well, I wish I could answer these questions because, you know, it's something that's it's a huge problem in our time. I go back to the end of World War II when there were millions of refugees all over Europe, moving out of Europe, and people were very depressed at that time and said that, you know, Europe would never sort itself out. Well, it has, and it it became reasonably stable. And now it's happening again for different reasons. Well, some of the same reasons. And what's going to happen? I wish I could tell you the answer. I don't know. but we have to fight for some respect for these people who are coming in, and hopefully find some way in which they can be integrated.
But do you think it is a real danger? I mean, you know Africa, that people will have to start walking for lack of water, lack of jobs,
In some
poverty
cases,
and so forth.
in some places, yes, I think they will. Already, there's environmental migrants already from some parts of Africa, and the droughts are getting worse, and freshwater supplies are shrinking. It's not just Africa, I think, probably.
So what should the world do? I know it's a very simple question and probably very difficult to answer, but I'm sure you have some ideas that could be done, or should be done, perhaps.
Well, in my view, there are three major problems facing us, all of which seem insoluble, but somehow have to be solved. One is crippling poverty, because when you're very poor, you destroy the environment to grow food for your family, or to cut down trees for charcoal to sell to get some money, or if you're in an urban area, and that's all over the world, that's including the developed world. If you're poor in an urban area, you buy the cheapest, you have to, and these cheap goods can be made in a way that's very harmful to the environment, or causes a great deal of human or animal suffering, but they have no option. So on the one hand, you've got poverty, we need to alleviate it. On the other hand, you've got the unsustainable lifestyle of most everybody else. Some of the elite at the top are more than unsustainable, they're wicked actually. And so we have to somehow help people
lift the bottom,
lift the bottom and decrease the top, and then we've got human population growth. So if you put all those three together, it's no wonder we have problems of climate change and desperate pollution. I mean, it's, as I say, they seem insoluble, but we have to, I mean, we're working in Africa to alleviate poverty, and it's working.
It's working.
Where we alleviate poverty, particularly where we empower women and provide family planning information, family size is beginning to drop. Not fast enough, but it is dropping.
As women start getting educated.
That's right, women and girls. So we have scholarships to keep girls in school. That's one program in 52 villages around Gombe and moving to the south, and similar programs where JGIs are working in Uganda, DRC, Congo, Brazzaville, and Senegal. In South Africa with our youth program, Roots and Shoots in Kenya too. So we're working there to alleviate poverty. All around Gombe, when I flew over in the early 90s, it was a little island of forest surrounded by completely bare hills. And that's when I realized the people were struggling to survive. They were too poor to buy food from elsewhere, that if we didn't help them, there's no way we could even try to save the chimps. So now, 10, 12 years later, you don't see the bare hills. The chimpanzees have 3 times more forest in that whole area. We have village monitors trained to go in and check on the forests with very sophisticated smartphones and iTablets. The information goes up to a platform on the clouds. Clouds seem to be different today to the clouds I knew, which produce rain. And
these produce information.
Yes. So this is Global Forest Watch, and that can be downloaded, so village elders and JGI and other NGOs and government officials can see what's happening. And you know, so that's working. We're improving the environment, improving the standard of living of the people. But we're working on these kind of issues in other countries, and you know, I'm working with the youth, our youth, which is in nearly 100 countries. It's about 100,000 groups of kindergarten through university, all choosing projects themselves to make this a better world. One for people, one for other animals, one for the environment we share, with a theme of we need to learn to live in peace and harmony with each other, to respect each other between nations, cultures, religions, and between us and the natural world. So that's what we're doing to try and alleviate some of these problems. We can't actually do more than that.
What do you think the rich West should do?
Well, the rich West, you know, the people, I actually, okay, I'll tell you that after my lectures, one man was going to buy a very expensive sports car and he realized he didn't need it and he shouldn't buy it and he gave us the money.
Really?
Yes.
When was that? Where?
That was in the Netherlands.
Mm-hmm.
Another man who came to my lecture from Taiwan had a sports car which he decided that he would sell and gave us the money. One man, I didn't see him for 2 years after he came to my lecture, and when I next saw him he said, well, after I left your lecture I just had to sell my big house. I knew I didn't need such a big house and I've downsized everything, thank you very much.
This is amazing.
Yes, I think so.
But obviously you need many, many, many more.
Exactly.
Thousands and millions
Exactly.
more people
That's
doing
why.
that.
Yes, that's why I work with the youth, because, you know, we have now got millions of young people either in the program or who've been through the program, and they are thinking differently. It's not enough. It's nowhere near enough, but it's all I can personally do.
Obviously, you know this much better than I do, but many people feel a little cynical.
Yes,
B,
they do.
a little in disbelief as it is what it is that one single individual can and should do.
Well, one single individual alone can do nothing.
Right.
But I think my job, since you talk about jobs, my job is to help people understand that if we make small choices each day, thinking about the consequences of those small choices, like what do you buy, eat, where, and so forth. Where did it come from? How many unnecessary miles did it travel? Did it cause environmental or human animal suffering? When millions and then billions of people make ethical choices, then you start moving towards a different world. And you know, one of our major problems is the power of the big corporations.
Yes.
And the only thing I can see that can actually sort of begin to do something about curbing that is consumer pressure.
Well, consumer pressure and consumption in general.
Yes.
I mean, your ideas, if I might say so, are basically hitting capitalism at
Yes.
its core.
Yes.
So you need to invent another world system. Because capitalism is based on consumption.
Yep.
More and more and newer and newer and newer and blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
blah. So
I
what do you-
even read an article 2 days ago, and I have to check out who wrote it and everything. I was so shocked. It said that, you know, there are signs that world population growth is slowing down, and this will be terrible for the economy. And I'm thinking, I'm sorry.
The population growth is slowing down, with the exception of Africa, where it grows. And it will be double, as I said before, by 2050. So Africa is growing.
We're doing our best.
The question is whether these people will find work, education, food, water. Water is not a big problem in Africa. It's
Yes,
the
it is.
biggest it is.
It's getting worse.
What will happen?
I don't know.
Does anybody have any ideas?
I don't
fresh
think
ideas
so.
concerning
Nobody's
African
really
water?
talking about that much. But you know, in the one area where we're working, where the population growth was explosive, it's now slowed down, and the people have better lives. So it can be done. And you know, I'm really encouraged by Pope Francis. He's a very unusual kind of pope, and some of his messages bode well for the future.
Such as what?
Well, when he had one very huge audience, he said something like, just because we can breed like rabbits doesn't mean we should. That's an amazing statement for a pope to make.
Since you know the globe better than most of us, do you think it can eventually happen that African, Asian, and perhaps some Latin American countries go back to the United Kingdom, to France, to Spain, to Portugal, and say, you have done this and this and this to our countries, you have taken this and this and this from all our homes and world. So let's start about repaying.
I think that's exactly what should happen.
Are there any signs for this to happen?
Well, yes, there actually are. I mean, there are some lawsuits out there from Latin America. I don't have any details, but you know that there is there is a greater understanding. I mean, Africans are much more educated now, much more educated, and they're beginning to understand the reason for some of this poverty.
Do you find that most of those educated stay in Africa, in their native land?
They stay in Tanzania. That's really known for the fact that they'll go out to be educated, but they nearly always come back. I think in some other countries they don't go back as much, but I don't have any details of that.
If you have to give us in a few sentences the basics of your future philosophy, I believe is that we should be able to live peacefully together with the environment and with the animals, human, environment and the animal. That's something for the future.
Yes.
What do you, how do you explain that?
How do I explain?
How should this happen?
How should this happen? Well, I can only see it happening through young people becoming better stewards than we've been. And that's why I spend so much time with our youth program. And if young people understand from an early age, we need money to live. It goes wrong when we live for money. If they understand from an early age the problems, and as we're doing, we empower them to take action. My biggest reason for hope as I travel around the world is all these groups of young people with shining eyes wanting to tell Dr. Jane what they've been doing, what they're doing, what they plan to do. And they are making a big difference. Some of them have amazing projects.
And they probably, in general, know a lot more about the world around them than they did in the 1940s when you were of the same age as they are now.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, the world is very different now, and it's a more depressing world to learn about. And it was because I met so many youth who'd lost hope. They were either depressed, angry, or mostly just apathetic. Doesn't matter what we do, you know, it's all hopeless.
Right.
That's why I started this Roots and Shoots program. It was specifically because if all our young people lose hope, we may as well give up. There's no future.
How should we find politicians to elect who are thinking the same way as you do, as opposed to helping and being funded by these huge corporations?
That's the problem. It's this unholy alliance between the huge corporations and governments. That's the main problem. And so I dream of a tipping point with youth until we get the young people who have the right ideas now being strong enough to support each other in trying to, well, curb the power of these great multinationals. It's so important. And you know, one way, like I say before, if we don't buy the goods of a company that we know is bad, then they'll have to make them in a more ethical way.
Do you ever dream about Africa or the chimpanzee?
I sometimes do, surprisingly not very often, but sometimes dream of it. But when I'm, you know, a waking dream, I often am back in the forests of Gombe when life gets really crazy and in the middle of big noisy cities like Tokyo and Jakarta and so forth. I can shut my eyes and all this traffic and stuff, and I can imagine it's the wind roaring in the trees, and it helps me be more peaceful and grounded.
Do you have or had a one single favorite chimpanzee? If so, what's the name?
Actually two. One, David Greybeard, who's the first chimpanzee to lose his fear, and actually helped the others to lose their fear, because instead of running away, he sat calmly, and they looked from him to me and back, and I suppose they thought, well, she can't be so dangerous after all. And old Flo, from whom I learned so much about chimpanzee mothering. We now know there's good mothers and bad mothers, just as in human society. And Flo was a really good mother.
Do you call them your friend?
I know people always say that. They're not.
I'm asking.
Yeah, they're not completely friends. I wouldn't call them friends. What are they? I don't know.
Well,
I don't know that there's a word for it.
we should leave it at that then.
Yes, it's a close relationship based on mutual respect and understanding At least we understand them, and I think to some extent they understand these strange two-legged creatures.
Dr. Goodall, thank you very much for this discussion. I wish you health,
Thank you.
luck and peace.
Thank you very much. I need all three.
Thank you. Önöknek köszönjük megtisztelő és tartós figyelmüket, most nyári szünetre megyünk, szeptemberben jövünk vissza. Addig is itt látják a weboldalunkat, ha visszanéznék műsorainkat. Továbbra is várjuk véleményüket, javaslataikat az alul látható mail címen. Önöknek is egészséges, békés, szerencsés nyarat kívánunk, viszontlátásra!